What is happening, Heelcast? We are back tonight with a special edition. Joining me tonight is Goldberg. Goldberg, what's up?
What up, Hurls?
Not much. So I guess we got to do a couple plugs here before we kind of go into everything.
I wouldn't say not much. There probably is a lot going on, at least in the wrestling industry.
Yeah. Well, you're right. You're right about that. There's a ton of news to come out. But Goldberg, is it true that you recorded a new show for the Heelcast called Goldberg's Gripe?
Yeah. I think it was. I think the person who deserves the credit for it, and not that it's done any numbers or anything, 30 views, but is you. I think it was your idea. I think you came up with the title. Did you not?
Yeah, I came up with the name, but everything after that was all you. So
I don't know if I'm ready to take credit for it yet. We'll see how it does.
I mean, we got Raven's Rant, we got Goldberg's Gripe. And I'll just keep my Hurls Hot Corner, you know? I'll keep that. I'll just keep that.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I recorded something last night, but based on news that came out today, it's kind of, I don't know, a thing of the past already.
Yeah, that's all right. We can kind of maybe, we don't have to go through it because I think if you're listening to this, go listen to the Goldberg's Gripe first, and then listen to this show. But we'll try to not touch on it too much. But I guess you can kind of give your new opinion of what's taken place. But another plug I want to give is another show that we do. It's not wrestling related. Well, I guess it could be wrestling related in some seasons. But me and Goldberg, we do the Amazing Reviews podcast, which is a Amazing Race recap podcast. So if you like the Amazing Race show, please go on over to Amazing Reviews and check it out because we got a new season coming up in about a month. So we'll be doing weekly shows over there as well. So
I think we got an athlete on the season coming up. If I read an article that was accurate, a former receiver in the NFL is going to be on this season. So.
Oh, really? Is it going to be like a Terrell Owens or a Chad Ochocinco?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay, so this is a kind of smaller name.
Yeah.
Okay.
But an athlete nonetheless.
Oh, it'd be cool to see. We've had football players, we've had basketball players, we've even had pro wrestlers on. So you never know what you're going to get in the cast of Amazing Race. So
maybe we'll get Scott Demore.
He could run it. he could run it. I'd be rooting for him.
He'd book Leo properly, that's for sure.
Yeah, he would. He would find a nice use for Leo. So, Goldberg, let's start with, we didn't get to go on last week, but we kind of wanted to talk about it. It's kind of old news now, but let's talk about the Royal Rumble. I mean, me and you are kind of lockstep in thinking that it was not a great event. I honestly think the Women's Rumble was probably the best of the night, and then it kind of, everything after just was kind of deflating. I'm not even mad really about the legends. I think the problem is they have so many guys on the roster that you just don't care about. Like, and it's not like the same as like AEW's problem with booking with no really storyline booking, but there's just so many guys that come out. It's like, why is the New Day still a thing? That is so stale right now. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, do you agree? Like, there's a lot of guys on the WWE roster that I just have no care for.
Well, I'd say 90% of the roster at this point are jobbers, not to be taken seriously.
Right.
Maybe not jobbers, but people that are just not threats.
They're not being used. Yeah.
And this is what I said on Goldberg's Gripes. And I mean this wholeheartedly, is First of all, that was the worst Royal Rumble I've ever seen in the history of watching Royal Rumbles. Do you agree with that? The match itself.
Yeah, because even some of the ones that I didn't really care for the winners, they at least had some interesting aspects to it. I don't think there was anything interesting about this one. Nothing.
Yeah.
Like there was no. I mean, I'm not really. I don't think Cody deserves to win it twice. You know, he's not like a guy like. So if you look at everyone who's won it twice, you've had Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a huge Shawn Michaels fan, by the way. I don't think he was that big of a draw. But man, Cody Rhodes is below him. So I don't know.
Cody's definitely below Shawn Michaels. I agree with that.
Yes.
So here, real quick, my thoughts on the Royal Rumble. I do think it was the worst Royal Rumble of all time, and I think it was in part to there being no legends, which I think people watch because in part they love to see people return or guys from the past. And I think they could have thrown an X-Pac in there. I don't think it would have hurt.
No, Pat McAfee's spot easily.
I mean, that was so stupid. And Pat, apparently he didn't even know he was going to be in the Rumble. Did you see that?
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that spot. Why would they have done that? Why?
Yeah, he had no idea. He didn't even know what to do. So, I think not having legends in the match, but you bring up a good point, is that there was 90% of the guys that came out, we knew they had no chance of winning. And that's what made it so bad in the end is who, when it started, would you have said before anyone even came out, before it even started, said will be the final two in the match?
You knew it was Cody Rhodes, CM Punk.
I know, and it happened.
You knew.
So how is that in any way interesting?
It wasn't. It wasn't at all. It was a snooze fest.
Even have Gunther fucking throw CM Punk out in the final three and put him in the final. Do something interesting.
Yeah. And you kind of hit the nail on the head there. They had everybody who you actually cared about in other matches. That was just
right.
You know, it deflated you. Like all the guys that you wanted to actually see in there were already in matches.
Right,
and,
LA Knight, AJ Styles,
yes, Randy Orton.
But I also compared it when I recorded Goldberg Stripes last night. I compared it to March Madness. When you're watching and the two number one seeds both make the championship game. Is that interesting in any way, shape, or form?
No.
Or do you want to see a Cinderella 10 seed or even a 3 seed, a 4 seed, somebody make it to the end that you didn't expect to make it to the end, like FAU last year, right? Like,
yes,
you want to see something like that. We don't want to see chalk and the 1 seeds, and even the finish was so boring. It wasn't even an interesting finish.
I don't even think the crowd was really even into it that much. Like last year they were with Cody, but they blew their chance last year, and he didn't win. And they're doing it again.
Are they forcing Cody on us?
I would have said last year no, but this year they are.
Isn't it almost comparable to the John Cena just the way he was forced on everyone? But the crowd hasn't turned against Cody like they turned on Cena. That's the difference.
Correct. Yeah, no, I don't think they're gonna turn on Cody because I think he's been in the business long enough now where I don't think he can be turned on. But I don't think there's like. I don't think it's like I mean, for the 40th anniversary of WrestleMania, like this is what their plan was. I get Roman. Roman's a big time heel, but you need a big time face, and I just don't think Cody Rhodes is that guy. Yeah. I think he's going to win the title, and then what's going to happen?
Well, let's save those thoughts till we get to Well, just talking about the Royal Rumble right now, one more thing before we don't have to spend too much time on it. But you mentioned you think the women's Rumble was the best part of the show.
I do. I think it was better.
Yeah. No, I think it was better too. The funny thing is, I was watching Rumble, and I was texting a buddy of mine who tunes in just for the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and the major shows throughout the year.
Right.
And we were texting through the Women's Royal Rumble, and we mentioned how boring it was. He couldn't believe there were 30 women in the match, and
Yeah.
that he had to sit through 30 women coming out, and which I thought was funny. And he texted me saying, "Hey, at least it can't get much worse from here." We were wrong.
Yeah, it did
Got
get
worse from there, and that's what made the women's match look so good. Is that the men's match was so bad that people fought back and said, "Shit, maybe the women's match wasn't that bad."
Right.
I mean, Jade Cargill was pretty good, even though she got
Yes.
eliminated by somebody half her size.
Yes.
But she was good in the match. But yeah, I think it's funny that the men's match was so bad that it
was
made
so boring.
to me it made because the women didn't have any returning people either, or any surprises.
No, but it
Cargill
had Cargill and Jordan Grace, which
Yeah.
at least you paid attention. Like, whoa, you got a TNA Knockouts champion who's never been in WWE. That was a pretty cool moment. So wow, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
But then they also had there was somebody else in the women's Rumble that kind of well, you had Naomi. Naomi returned obviously from coming from TNA to back to WWE. I mean that not like huge, but at least like you had Natty Neidhart and there were some bigger names in the women's Rumble. The men's Rumble just had so many guys that you just don't care about anymore. I mean, Kofi Kingston, really? Like he needs a new like refresh. He needs a new character change. His stuff is just getting old now.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Drew McIntyre though, right? Wasn't he in the Rumble? He might have been the only other guy that I think
he had a good run.
Wanted to win. Yeah.
He had a good showing.
Yes. Yeah, he did. He did. So yeah, really boring Rumble. The Cody Rhodes is not. They should have put the title on him last year if they were going to do it. If not, he shouldn't have won the Rumble this year. I mean, I would have rather had Drew win it. If you have to put somebody in that match and they have to win, then I'm going Drew McIntyre because I'm tired of seeing Cody's stupid story. Like that's so cheesy.
Well, yeah, I don't know if McIntyre's the answer either, though. He just.
Well, they don't have an answer to beat Roman. I mean, they kind of booked themselves into a hole here. Cody's gonna do it, but I mean, who's the next big feud after that? I don't know. I mean, honestly, you had a guy that was popular. You should have rode him into Royal Rumble and had him win. It should have been LA Knight.
I agree.
Like, come on.
The steam is cooling off of LA Knight, and it's not a smart thing to do.
Correct.
And it's like the way Wardlow was booked in AEW, and the steam cooled off, and I don't know that there's coming back from Wardlow unless he gets completely repackaged. And I think LA Knight may be in the same boat soon, which is not good.
The only other guy I could say that actually, made me pay attention was Braun Breaker being in the Rumble. That guy, he could have lasted in the 90s. He would be a guy that you could put in you could put him in any era in the 90s, like the the early 90s, the Attitude Era. He could fit in. I mean, that guy is money in the making. He probably needs to get a little bit better with his wrestling. He's still kind of stiff, it seems, but he's without a shadow of a doubt another Steiner. And he's like, you see some of these guys and they're nothing like their dad. This guy is their dad, and he has potential to even be better. That's how big I am, how high I am on Braun Breaker.
I agree. I agree.
He's money, but I just hope he's used well. I hope he gets used on the main roster well.
So before we move on real quick, I just wanted your opinion on this, because this is one more thing I brought up when I recorded Goldberg's Gripes. I don't want to keep going back to that, but I wanted your opinion on this. We talked about how sick we are of Cody Rhodes finishing the story.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, why are they so intent on finishing the story? If you read a story or a book and it finishes, what do you do with that story or that book?
You throw it away,
You
or
throw
you
it away.
sell it. Yeah.
So shouldn't this be the beginning of the story for Cody Rhodes? Why is this
The
finishing
end.
the story? If he's finishing the story, then we have no interest left in him.
Correct.
So yeah, that was just
I mean, he's
something.
yeah. They're gonna have to come up with somebody like after they beat Roman and Roman takes a break. They're gonna have to come up with some heel that's gonna make Cody's
Got to be
title
Gunther.
reign.
It's got to be Gunther at this point.
Yeah, well, yeah, but then again, like Gunther's a guy that I may not want to go against Cody right away because Cody's just gonna beat him. I would think.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I'll kind of wait for Gunther when he's ready to go there. I think he should win it.
That's a good point.
So
yeah, that's a good point.
So I don't know. That's a good question. Because a lot of times when the best like face runs in the company in WWE have always been like the John Cena going up against the big monsters, or Hulk Hogan, same thing. Like he would go up against, the Earthquakes, the Yokozunas, the Big John Studs, the King Kong Bundys, that type of guy. And John Cena kind of had the same type of run with, Great Khali, Umaga, those guys. So, and he had, great feuds with Edge and, everybody else. But I don't know.
Remember him?
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking too? Like I was thinking about this the other day. When WWE guys that weren't really that popular in WWE per se, or they kind of got stale, when they go to TNA,
yeah,
it's like they get a rebirth.
100%.
They get like a whole new character. They get off all the bad WWE stink and they create a new persona, like Mustafa Ali, Nick Nemeth, aka Dolph Ziggler. Like these guys are actually pretty interesting now. With
they can take mid carders and turn them into something interesting. They've always been good at that.
Yep, Drew McIntyre. I mean, man, he was coming off three-man band, and look what he did in TNA. Bobby Lashley.
See, I thought Heath Slater would. That's why I was so high on Heath Slater when he came over.
Yeah, I think the problem with him is he's not getting in better shape. He had that ACL tear, and I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Matt Cardona's. You could kind of say him too, because I think he's way more interesting than he ever has been with Zack Ryder. So
yeah, I also thought Brian Myers would. You know what? It was more prominent back then. I mean, yeah, they can still do it. I we'll see where it goes with Nick Nemeth, but I mean, Christian was never the guy in WWE until he came to TNA and did what he did with Christian Cage. So now he's seen as a main eventer. He really wasn't one back then.
No, he was. The thing was, he was kind of before he left WWE. He was starting to get into the main events, but I don't think he would ever won until he went to TNA and proved that he could be a main eventer, and then came back to WWE. And I thought he was kind of watered down at that point, but he did finally win the title. But I still think I think that might be the best run of his career, besides maybe the tag team, the great tag team matches with him and Edge versus the Hardys and Dudleys. But I honestly think his TNA run was one of the best. But I will say, out of all the crap that we give AEW, I actually do like how he's kind of changed his character in AEW with the whole dead father thing. That actually, that's good. That's some good heel heat. So that's probably one of the only things that I can actually give credit for AEW. So, but yeah, everything else though, man, it's brutal. So let's so we're still on the WWE topic. Let's stay there. Let's talk about, before we go to the WrestleMania stuff that we just kind of found out about, let's talk about the Vince McMahon stuff. I know we kind of brought it up like 2 weeks ago and we didn't really know what to say, but I mean, this kind of seems like the end of Vince McMahon. So let's kind of go through, like, I don't want to say this is like a eulogy of him, but I mean, probably never going to see him again. So overall, when you think of Vince McMahon, like his entire body of work, do you think the guy will ever get like a Hall of Fame induction? Or is he going to be blacklisted?
I think he's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would give him a Hall of Fame induction. Plus, he hasn't been criminally prosecuted of anything. So, but we know in this day and age, it just when you get accused and you get accused multiple times, you're guilty in the public's view. So,
well, you're right. You're right. What has to happen? He has to be not guilty. And then they're going to have to keep him on the shelf for like 3 to 5 years. Let the whole thing simmer down. Like they know I mean, the guy is creepy. I think we all kind of knew that. But I mean, I think he does deserve a Hall of Fame induction. But I think you're going to have to keep him away. But the problem is the guy's getting up there in age.
Yeah, I actually think that this could kill him if he's.
It might.
Yeah.
It might. And he might get a post, what do they call that? Mortem? No. Post-humanist? Yeah.
Oh,
post-humanist. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the kind of Hall of Fame induction I think he may get. And I don't know. It's just weird to see, like, because when you think of WWE, you always think of him because he's always been there since we've been born. You know, like we weren't born during the time of Vince McMahon Sr. So, it's just crazy to think about that has nothing to be associated with WWE anymore. So
it's hard to believe that nobody in the family does.
Correct. He'll never be in a video game again. He'll never have an action figure, a T-shirt.
I don't think he will ever step foot in a WWE ring ever again.
No.
I think that's a safe bet.
And partially that's his doing. Like we can't take that away. Like he didn't have to do the crap he did with this woman who I don't think is all there either.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she's innocent in this. But man, you always want to see at least someone kind of ride off into the sunset and go out on a good term, at least get in the Hall of Fame and maybe do another DVD or documentary. But he's going to get all the wrong documentaries now.
Yep.
But I didn't like Vince McMahon. I was never really a fan of him. But I will give him a lot of credit for a lot of things he did. He obviously was a risk taker. He bought up all the territories. He broke up the NWA. He kind of broke up the peace treaty all these territories had. That's not a thing I liked necessarily, but it was kind of before my time. But he was a really good announcer. Like I think
great announcer.
Get how good he was at announcing. Like
great at announcing.
He was
great.
Yep. He could make you care. He sold everything like it was a big deal. So I got to give him credit there. I really do. And man, he made that whole feud, the whole starting thing with Bret Hart and then making that his character. That was genius. That really was. And
he was a great character. Put aside whatever he did, he was a tremendous on-screen character. He was legitimately hateable. His feud with Stone Cold with The Rock, especially with Stone Cold, was. How about when Stone Cold beat him up in the hospital bed? I mean, those are memorable things, and he really, obviously, changed the landscape of wrestling. To a certain degree. So he's. I think he deserves to be honored. But I don't know that we'll ever see that happen.
Probably not. I mean, you'll get us wrong. Like once you hear the Ashley Mazzaro stuff, like
that's tough to hear.
That was rough. That was bad. Yikes. Yeah, that's just a sad story.
Sad,
So,
very sad.
yep. So, but it's very hard to talk about a guy when you know some of the stuff he's done. And I mean, it goes back even further, even with like Jimmy Snuka, that whole thing and the steroid controversy in the early 90s. But yeah, I got to give him, like, just speaking in wrestling terms, I give him credit for what he's done. But he kind of I think he was a little past the hill. I would say probably past like 2008. He probably,
Yes. See, before we move on, that's a good question. If Vince stepped aside, let's say 10, 15 years ago,
yeah,
would this be an issue right now? Would this woman have stepped forward now while he was still in power? Obviously, if he wasn't in power, moved on 10 years ago, would this even be happening? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, she clearly was, being bought off, but she was happy with the being bought off from the sounds of it, right? Like, she only came out once the money stopped. So, or at least that's what I'm maybe there's more to it. I'm sure there is, but I mean, did you like the Authority when that was going on? It was kind of just another rehash of the McMahon Helmsley, but it wasn't as powerful, but at least it was kind of interesting. But he wasn't the same anymore. I really think his last thing that he did that I think was entertaining. I'm not talking about the limo being blown up, but the feud with DX. I think that was like the last time that I think I saw that I felt like he was entertaining in that way. So, yeah. So, all right. So let's go to WrestleMania 40. Goldberg. I didn't see this until we were talking just before the air, but it is now Cody versus Roman officially.
I think it's been officially announced at this press conference in Vegas, which looks like it's sold out, even though it was free. Ooh, look at this. Santana from, what do you call it?
AEW?
Yeah, just tweeted stories.
What does that mean?
Probably that AEW doesn't have any.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so I think it looks like it's Roman versus Cody now, and The Rock has sided with Roman Reigns instead of facing him, which is probably an unexpected turn of events, to say the least, and kind of makes you wonder what this whole look. I guess the story now would be The Rock and Roman Reigns was a setup. Maybe is that how the story is supposed to go now? Like, had he wrestled the match, he would have just allowed Roman to what would have, how would that have turned out? Because Cody came out and said, I'm challenging Roman Reigns. As the winner of the Royal Rumble, he has every right to choose. So,
yeah, and this is where I told you, I think the stipulation that this has to headline WrestleMania every year is stupid. Because, no offense to Cody Rhodes, and I understand, like, okay, yeah, he's been working to get the world title. He could have done that last year. Roman could have won the title back, and now we could have had Rock and Roman. Like, now Rock's just gonna side with Roman. That's stupid to me. That's absolutely stupid.
So, all right. First, I'm going to give my why I think it's stupid, but then I'm also going to give a couple positive notes because I am the WWE defender.
Okay.
So, here's why it's stupid, because this whole last 2 weeks kind of seems obsolete now. Why did Cody come out and seemingly give The Rock the match last week? Like, what was the point in that? When he said The Rock can fight Roman Reigns, like, literally, what was the point in that happening?
They've done this before. They've done this with Daniel Bryan. It's the same thing.
Daniel
The only
Bryan's
difference is
he's a loser.
I mean, the only thing that they're doing now is they're not doing a triple threat. They're just going to completely take Rock out of the match. I'm sure Rock doesn't care. He's like, well, I got movies. Like, I don't need to wrestle. I just thought I'd do it, you know. You know, Roman's been this mega heel, Samoan mega heel. Meanwhile, he's never wrestled this other Samoan who's one of the greatest wrestlers and, you know, mic talkers of all time. You know, let's not have that match. Let's take Rock out of the equation, and not only that, let's put him in Roman Reigns' corner. The guy's always has a stacked corner because he's got, you know, Heyman and Solo Sikoa or whatever. Solo Sikoa. I don't know. It's just WrestleMania is not going to be that exciting. I'm sure Cody will get cheered. I'm sure he'll have a big celebration, but I'm not. I don't know. Let's hear your positives, though. I want to hear you kind of spin this.
So here's what I like about it. That we think Cody is a secondary character. We think he's a B guy, not an A guy, right? So
yeah,
the way I see Cody catapulting into an A guy is sort of the way you just explained it, where Roman Reigns has his whole gang, right? Paul Heyman, Solo Sikoa, one of the Usos,
yeah.
and now The Rock. And if Cody can overcome all of that and win the title, I almost think it catapults him to another category. And I can't say that for sure until I actually watch the match and see what happens. But you can see how overcoming Roman Reigns is quite a feat, I guess, nowadays. But also beating Roman Reigns with The Rock in his corner, that could take Cody to another level. You don't think so?
Yeah, I mean, he could get a big time rub from this, obviously, and there is a new dynamic that wasn't there last year. But I just The Rock should not be a second fiddle to Roman.
I don't think so. That's the weird part is it almost seems like Roman's playing second fiddle to The Rock at this point, which is weird because if you watch the clips, there was here's another thing I liked, and this part I really liked because I think this can go places. Did you see that clip with Triple H and The Rock after the press conference backstage?
No. What happened?
So Cody made fun of the whole family, The Rock, Roman Reigns, their whole family, right?
Yeah.
And Triple H was out there going on. He was on the stage. And after it ended backstage, there's a clip on Twitter you can go see with The Rock, Roman, and Paul Heyman approaching Triple H backstage, and The Rock saying, you let Cody diss my family one more time, you see what's going to happen. Now Triple H seems like he's being dragged into this. Rock is at the forefront of it with the whole family thing, and I don't know where this is going, but possibly The Rock fight Triple H at WrestleMania. Is there a possibility that could happen?
Triple H left his boots in the ring, though. Remember that? He retired. I mean, that's usually the sign a wrestler is retired. But yeah, are you ever really retired?
It's wrestling.
Yeah, they could do it, right?
Would you have any interest in The Rock facing Triple H at WrestleMania if it were to happen? And maybe there'd be a tag match. I don't know. But
right.
In some regard, where they're going with this is at least somewhat intriguing. Where we don't know what's going to happen, and I've been saying that for a couple of weeks when people were burying this whole story. We don't know what's going to happen, and it keeps.
It's intriguing you.
Well, I don't think anything intrigues me with wrestling nowadays, but I it's at least semi-interesting, and yeah, I guess we don't know for sure what's going to happen. And I think the crowd was definitely worked throughout this whole thing.
Before you said that whole Triple H part, I was actually thinking this was going to be akin to Austin Michaels WrestleMania 14 or was that 13 or 14, where The Rock sides with Roman a couple months before the event. Well, yeah. And all of a sudden at WrestleMania, he turns on Roman, giving Cody the win. That's kind of what I was thinking as you were saying that. But now that they're doing the whole Triple H thing, that could be a different dynamic. But I mean, wouldn't that make more sense where Rock kind of cheap shots Roman maybe with a ref bump, maybe gives him a rock bottom, and then Cody kind of, gets up, able to hit his finisher on Roman, and then 1, 2, 3, and he wins it. Kind of like how Tyson knocked out Shawn Michaels, right? That's kind of how I was thinking it was going to go. And I think, because then Rock will just kind of, go away and do some more movies or something, because I don't know how long he's going to be, around for, but I would imagine it's not going to be long. That's kind of what I was thinking. And then obviously you could do Rock versus Roman at a different event. I don't know how long you would wait, but then you said the Triple H thing. Maybe you do get a Triple H versus Rock match, another one.
Because they could be in a power struggle now for control of, the company.
That's true, because he's technically in the whole ownership. Yeah.
I think there's potential to be had here.
Yeah.
And this is the most we've ever talked about WWE, which is also saying a lot. So who knows? I don't know, but I do think this is definitely Cody's moment. I think he's going to win the title, and I think it may turn out to be a big deal, and maybe I'll look at him differently after, but I agree with you right now. I see him as a B character, and it's probably because of his history, being Stardust, whatever the fuck he was.
Yeah, he was a lot of mid-card acts before he got to this point, but still, I don't know if he's always kind of, I don't know, he's still, I don't know if he can be an A character. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's hard to be an A character. You got to be the best of the best. Right. But, I just think they're kind of depleted they're not depleted. It's just, I think they kind of booked themselves to this point.
Corner. Yeah.
They're not going to push.
If Cody doesn't win, who the fuck is going to beat Roman Reigns and when?
See, I thought they were trying to do the whole, beat Hulk Hogan streak, but I don't think they're going to do that anymore. I think
hopefully Hogan comes out and fucking
drops the bomb and wins the title at 70 one more time. That ain't happening.
Well, you know what? I hate to change the subject, but I've been waiting all night. Hear your opinion.
Okay, so we're done talking about WWE. We're done now. There's no more WWE talk for the rest of the show. Okay. All right. So moving on, we're transitioning to TNA. There's a lot to talk about this, and you actually given me some ideas with how we're talking WrestleMania to what I think TNA should do. Yeah, okay. And they should make this into a storyline. Absolutely, right?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, now that you say it, yeah.
Anthem owners keep coming off like heels, whether it be Ed Nordholm, Len Asper, whoever. These guys keep coming off as heels.
Yeah.
They should make a character or have somebody represent Anthem at the top, and then bring D'Amore back and do a whole freaking storyline on this. That would be good TV to me. That's what they would have done in the 90s.
Honestly, a great idea. I don't know if D'Amore would be down for it, because
probably not.
It'd basically be a demotion. It's going back to an on-screen character. But before that is a great idea, and it's interesting. It's very interesting, certainly. But before, what is your opinions on? I mean, were you shocked when you read that Scott D'Amore was terminated?
Yes. Yeah. Initial reaction.
This is your baby.
Yes, it is my baby, and I'm going to cradle that baby. I'm going to be frank right with you. There was okay. Let's start with the initial reaction of Scott D'Amore getting fired. My jaw dropped. I thought he was lockstep with TNA management.
Right.
I would have never saw this coming. I thought him and Asper were, on good terms, to say the least. I could not believe that he got fired.
Yeah.
So none of it made sense when it first came out. I was like, there's got to be more to this story. Like, we're not hearing everything. Like, I wasn't necessarily thinking that there was a big scandal, but there had to have been something for this to take place. And then sure enough, a day later, we find out the whole story. But here's the thing that doesn't really make sense. So I get the point. Like, D'Amore wanted to take this thing to new heights, it kind of seemed like, right? Like, that's what the reports are saying, that he wanted more of a budget, and Len Asper wasn't going to give it to him. They just didn't.
Why is that a fireable offense to want a more budget?
That I don't get. But then also, if you read Pro Wrestling Insider's report on this, it's kind of not. It's saying that TNA still plans on increasing the budget, and they're still like trying to get, bigger names. So I don't really know the whole storyline, but they obviously had a disagreement in what they wanted to do with it. So why did D'Amore? The other part of the report was D'Amore saw the writing on the wall and he tried to purchase the company. He got a financial backer to come and purchase the company. Like, that's, just think of this. Like, you're a guy, yeah, you have a big position in the company, but he loved this brand so much that he wanted to buy it. Like, he found a backing to buy it. And it was compared to when Bischoff wanted to buy WCW at the end with Fusion Media. Right. So this is crazy. I can't wait to hear like the podcast on this in like 10 years when you can actually talk about it. But this whole thing is just crazy to me. It came out of nowhere. Like, if you would have told me like a week ago that this was going to be the storyline, I would have never believed you. Never. So that was my reaction.
But apparently he's known about it for a week or so. And one more quick comment. I know I keep bringing up what I recorded last night, but I saw somebody on Twitter bring this up, and I wanted your thoughts on it real quick. Remember after the Will Ospreay Josh Alexander match when he cut that amazing promo about TNA? Yes. And first of all, a tremendous promo, the passion, incredible, which that promo alone shocks me so much that he's not there anymore. Just how passionate he was in that promo. But then somebody mentioned on Twitter, the beginning of the promo, D'Amore said, if I go backstage right now and die, or if I go backstage right now and he said something along the lines of, I'm not around anymore, something like that. I'm so proud of what I've done. Maybe the writing was on the wall then.
It probably was.
Yeah.
It may have been his swan song to TNA in retrospect.
And he was saying goodbye in some weird way.
Yep.
In that promo, and that was his goodbye, is how passionate that man is for the company and for the wrestling business, probably as a whole. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. Somebody said that on Twitter, and I said, man, they may be right.
Yeah, that's a good point, whoever that Twitter user was. But that was good. So like going forward and just kind of looking at this from a distance, I think D'Amore was well liked. Like, there's no question. Backstage. He had the respect of everybody. Yeah. And probably more than I've ever seen in TNA. Like, not everybody liked Dixie, not everybody liked Jarrett. I think Jarrett was probably the closest to D'Amore, but not everybody seemed to like whoever was in charge of TNA until, D'Amore like really seemed like he got that locker room. I mean, besides, you had the whole Eli Drake incident, you had a few incidents here and there, but honestly, like, it seemed like he has the respect of everybody. And the other thing we need to know is D'Amore was there basically from the beginning. So he kind of knew the ins and outs of TNA from the start to where it is now. And now, I mean, unless you consider Gail Kim that, they don't really have anyone like that anymore. And it's kind of scary, right? Like, that's the part where that kind of concerns me. And then also, we don't know who this new guy's what he's gonna be like. I mean, yeah, we can read all the reports on the internet that said this guy's he's very open to listening and whatnot, and that's great and all, but he's got no wrestling experience. So he's basically giving the keys right now to Gail Kim and Tommy Dreamer. And Tommy Dreamer he's run his own company before, but it was very akin to the style of ECW. And you could see that. I can't. Was it House of
Somehow
Hardcore,
Tommy
right?
Dreamer is about to walk his way into running TNA.
Yeah, pretty much. With this new guy, Tony or whatever, Anthony something. So I don't know. Like I honestly don't know where they're gonna go with this. Like, is Tommy Dreamer, is he nostalgic for King of the Mountain matches? Is he nostalgic for maybe bringing back Lockdown? Probably not. That kind of scares me a little bit. Like, I mean, I guess Gail being there would be good for that, but I don't know. I don't know. And I think with all the hype and momentum TNA had, this was a shot in the foot to me. Just looking at it from momentum standpoint, this was kind of a shot in the foot. I don't think you can look at it in any way, shape, or form that it wasn't. Am I saying D'Amore was the best booker they had? No, he's not. But when you got a stable locker room, that's a big thing. And it seems like they had it. So, except for maybe Michael Elgin. Well,
we'll
said
see
something different.
See what comes from that. But so here's my quick thoughts, and you can respond to this. I like Scott D'Amore. I didn't like him as a booker. I liked him as an on-screen character. I liked his passion for the business. I loved Team Canada back in the day. But for me, his booking was lacking something. And he wasn't a great booker. He booked too much intergender shit, which we've talked ad nauseum about that on this podcast.
Yeah, they made a woman the championship.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's behind that. He's booked a lot of X Division guys to beat heavyweight guys. Moose has lost plenty of times to smaller guys. Brian Cage lost a lot of times. Well, Brian Cage lost to a woman. I mean, his track record wasn't good, and that was my main concern going into the new era of TNA. We were going to get the same old shit. We were going to get Impact just with the TNA title now. Now it's called TNA, but we're still getting the same thing, and we probably would have because Scott D'Amore is the booker. Tommy Dreamer and Gail Kim are next in line. Doesn't give me much hope either. They were they were booking with him, apparently. They were next in line. So are they going to book any differently than he was? I don't think so.
Yeah, it seemed like they kind of wrote the wrong of the intergender stuff in the last couple years. They've kind of strayed away from it, at least to an extent. Like they were doing
Hurls. They didn't not long ago. They had Jordan Grace. Like, didn't she win a battle royal or was in the final?
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Yes, she did. To call your shot. Yes. Yeah, you're right. You're right on that. Even if it was, like a roll up, but there's something. Yeah, there was things like that you could pick apart and be like, yeah, that's not great, right? Like. But like they've kind of gotten away from the cruiserweight, or at least the small guys kind of going over. Like, I mean, the last few champions have been all heavyweights or guys that I could say could be world champions, which, in my mind, that's a big thing. So that at least has happened. Hopefully maybe he heard all the flack he was getting. And, but going forward, I mean, we got to I guess we have to wait and see what it's going to look like. But Tommy Dreamer was definitely part of that committee, though. I'll give you that.
It's funny. They immediately announced a no surrender match. Did you see that between Alex Shelley and Moose?
Oh, for the rematch, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the rematch is now a no surrender match where you have to throw in the towel in order to lose. Which you kind of feel like Tommy Dreamer could be behind that.
Yeah, I could see that. Yep. That seems like a Tommy Dreamer style, type match he would do. All I'm saying is just okay. So you rebranded as TNA. Bring some of those TNA matches back that people love. King of the Mountain, Ultimate.
Number one, King of the Mountain.
They're still doing Ultimate X's, but they need to bring back King of the Mountain. They need to bring back Lockdown. Yeah. So, or at least Lethal Lockdown. At the very least, Lethal Lockdown. Yes. They got to bring that match back.
100%.
So 100%. These are some of the things that I'm urging.
And they can bring back, like Bully Ray wants to fucking have a retirement run with Devon. Bring back Team 3D and they're Tommy Dreamer's buddies. Let them get a run. But they would draw some eyes. They would, if it's people know that this is the end of their run.
So
tune in.
From what I've been hearing though, like, okay, I see Bully Ray that he's been on X kind of vouching to just get back on TV anywhere. Have you kind of noticed that? He's
mentioned every company.
Yeah. He's been wanting to go to WWE, but didn't they sign legend contracts? So are they like obligated to just be on WWE television? Like, I don't know. I don't know what the stipulation is there.
I don't think so, based on the fact that he's been heavily talking about AEW too. So it doesn't seem like he has to be with WWE in my opinion. I don't know, but
he also mentioned that he wants to do a 3D at WrestleMania. Wouldn't that be cool? He said.
Yeah. That's the recent thing he said, and that's where they should go. Honestly, that's what they deserve, in my opinion. They deserve one more run in WWE.
Yeah.
We know what would happen if they went to AEW, aka Hardy Boys.
Oh, it would not be good. Yeah.
We've seen what would happen if they go there. So I hope for their sake, they either go to TNA or WWE.
Or WWE. I agree.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind seeing it in TNA. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Yeah, that would be cool. I would like to see the Hardys get out of their AEW contracts and go back to TNA too for maybe another match. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know. I'm just shocked at the whole thing. You know, I need to kind of process this. I can't believe that Scott D'Amore, like, he had a whole backing to buy the company.
Yeah.
Like, what would have happened? Like, what were his plans? Like, after that, like,
but why'd they fire him for that? Like,
I don't know.
The company?
I honestly don't know. Was it just for the fact that,
and you're fired?
Yeah, and you're fired, right? Did they just view him as a threat that he, didn't have Anthem's best interests?
Stepped bounds. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. No. Like,
according to Michael Elgin, like you said, there may be something more. So
there could be.
We'll stay tuned.
I think there's going to be more reports on this. Like, I just don't get, like, clearly him and Len Asper just had a falling out. There's no question they did. Whatever those discussions were, they had a big falling out.
In honor of Scott D'Amore, I think when we sign off here, I'm going to pop in an old TNA DVD with Team Canada on it. A good old one.
Hockey stick.
Yeah, I'm going to see a little, maybe A1, get some good A1 action.
A1, yes. But the other thing too that we got to mention though is, like, some of these guys that re-signed were because of D'Amore. Moose said it. I think probably Josh Alexander too. Those are two guys they can't afford to lose. Those are like their guys now.
Yeah,
they got to keep them.
Yeah, I agree. But I also, one more time, I did mention this last night as well, is it's time to start over. I know I've mentioned this a bunch of times. TNA should completely reboot and start over. But I also think that it's they need to start taking guys and catapulting them to the next level, and using the way they used to use legends back in the day to put over guys. And now the legends back in the day, you had Kurt Angle, Christian, Jeff Jarrett, guys like that, who were Kevin Nash, even, who are putting guys over to some degree. And now it's like Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, Darian, Eddie Edwards, right?
Yes.
At this point. So
yeah,
these are the veterans now, and they need to start putting over the next crop of guys, because we need the next Samoa Joe, Robert Roode, AJ Styles. We need the next group. It's got to come.
well, the next Samoa Joe is easy. Should be
Fatu.
Alex Hammerstone.
Oh, what about Jacob Fatu?
Well, him too. That would be great. Yeah, I mean, if you're making more of a direct comparison, definitely.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, for me,
Yeah.
Hammerstone's, he's the next guy, and I hope they sign him. I really do, because he could be TNA's Hulk Hogan. He really could.
He could.
Give him a few years in the red and yellow, and then
Yes.
he'll turn.
There you go.
He'll turn heel. Then he'll turn heel.
Hammerstone-mania, running wild.
The guy's he's right up our alley, Hurls. That's our type of guy.
But, I'm always being accused of being the TNA lawyer and whatever. But one thing that I will say that kind of does scare me is if that Meltzer report that he wanted to make this budget bigger and Anthem told them no, that just doesn't give me a lot of hope.
That's fair, but they can still build within this. They still have guys that they can. They were doing good things with Ace Austin for a while when I was and that faded, and now he's just I get it. He has the tag titles, right?
Right.
Doesn't he?
Right. Well, they lost last week, I believe.
Oh, did they lose?
The Grizzled Young Vets, yeah. I think they did.
They lost the titles?
I gotta watch. I believe they. Well, maybe not. I thought they did.
I don't think they lost the titles, but I also don't like that random. I didn't like. I think Ace Austin had the potential to be a main event guy.
I think he still can, but the weird thing is, I actually don't like his hair just being normal color. I actually think when he had the purple hair, it kind of made him stand out.
Yeah, but he had a persona. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's guys like that though that they need to take and build into something, and they were doing something right with him, and I just think there's guys within this roster that you can do something with. Listen, TNA built these guys up from nothing, right? And they're all timers now. They're legends. A lot of them are legends and huge names in the wrestling industry. So it's you can do it. You just got to do it the right way.
Well, I mean, if Anthem's, gradually increasing the budget just based on, building up the promotion, I'm fine with that. But then I don't want them to like cap themselves off and just kind of always be stuck where,
I get it. Yeah, I get that. But Hurls, if you think about it, let's say they did lose the tag titles. I don't think they did. But if you I get it, they're both heels, but if you put Ace Austin in a program with Moose for a couple months and Ace Austin got a title shot and lost, doesn't that put him in a different, would you view him in a different regard, even though he lost? And being in a program with a main event guy, like, wouldn't you look at Ace Austin a little differently from then on?
Well, he was in a main event program. He fought Christian when Christian had the title.
Right.
He's had those shots. They've had guys like Trey Miguel get a title shot, I think.
Yeah, he's something. I don't like that.
Well, that was a couple of years ago, obviously, maybe 3 years ago, but still, like, some of those guys did get some of those. And they had those early title shots. They didn't win them, obviously, but they were put in that spot. So, but yeah,
do you remember?
Listen, potential.
TNA did it with Jay Lethal. They made him a main event guy.
Yeah,
he was just a regular Joe Schmo when he first came on the scene. I mean, as Joe Schmo-y as you can get. He was a nobody. And they made him into literally a tremendous name in the wrestling industry, even though Tony Khan's tried to destroy that as much as he can. But I remember Jay Lethal coming on the scene and getting a title shot. I don't know if you remember this, against Jeff Jarrett when Jarrett had the title, and he lost. But from then on, he just became somebody, and they
Hey, beat Ric Flair too.
yeah, and
Yep.
yeah, he just they knew how to make something out of nothing, and I think that's what this TNA needs to do. Start making something out of nothing. So.
Yeah. I mean, like I watching the first two shows coming out of Hard to Kill, and I'll catch up by next week, and we'll probably go live next week. But I liked what I've seen at times. You know, they've not done anything completely wrong, but they also need to start kind of getting a big main event storyline kind of going and to build, interest. So I agree, but then they also have to bring some of the crazy moments back. And I think Vince Russo he had a style that really, like, kind of the word I'm kind of looking for. He kind of had that style that kind of matched what TNA was doing, him and Jarrett. So I would hope they could kind of come back and kind of, do something with that again. So I don't know. I'm not saying they have to hire, but maybe something new, something innovative.
Yeah.
I just want them to be they don't have to be number one, but I just want them to be a player, like at least at AEW's level, right?
I don't know that that'll ever happen again, especially with the budget comments. But
there is talk that they are trying to go to some arena. I don't know if you saw that report. They're going to a big arena for one of their pay-per-views. But I do like that they're going back to the Palms for oh gosh, what's that pay-per-view called?
Rebellion.
Rebellion. Yes, thank you. They're going back to the Palms. Palms looks great on TV. So
yeah.
I think they did also announce that there's going to be some more surprises coming in the next few months.
Yes. Yes.
So that could be intriguing. So
yeah,
we'll have to wait and see what that's all
I'm
about.
on board.
Yep.
I'm ready.
Yep.
I'm giving them another chance, and I'm ready, especially after this set of tapings is done, what they've already done with D'Amore. Let's see what happens with their first shows without him.
Yeah, absolutely. So should be good. Let's just move on to one thing about AEW. So, we got to talk about it because Sting and Darby Allin did win the tag team titles. I'm right about that one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Did.
So at least Sting did get some gold while babysitting Darby Allin. That is good. But obviously they lose it at Revolution. I guess. What are your thoughts on this?
So here's my problem with it, and I have to have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So they decided Sting's retiring. In the 3 years he's been babysitting Darby. Once think about putting tag team gold on them, but now that he decided, hey, I'm retiring. Looks like, oh, hey, real quick, let's just give him the titles. Like he's calling it a career, so let's just throw the titles on him. Like, you know what I mean? Or is that coming off as nitpicky?
No. It's like a thank you. It's kind of like a thank you run, right? Thank you title run before you retire.
For a month?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I have no interest in the Young Bucks. I think they're doofuses. I think they're goofy. They don't come off as legitimate. I wouldn't be scared of them if I met them in a dark alley late at night. They do nothing for me. They come off as phony. So I have no interest in them. I think Sting's whole run has been shit, and through no fault of his own. Although he's probably had to agree to most of the things he's done, which is just follow Darby Allin around. They've never turned on each other. Nothing interesting's ever happened. However, having said all that, he's the icon. His career was rejuvenated and taken to another level in TNA. With what he did in TNA, and
yes,
I get it. He's older now. but he was old in TNA. And he was booked in so many different ways, even with the Joker character, putting him battling Hogan. He didn't need the title. He was battling Hogan for control of the company. Like, there was just so many ways to go. And there's so many things that Tony Khan could have done rather than just literally have him babysit Darby Allin for 3 years. And it's so missed. And anyone who goes to AEW gets the same stupid treatment. Edge has gotten it. Like, I didn't even know Edge was still there at this point. He's done nothing, but flirt around with Christian for a couple months. Then he fought that Japanese guy, Suzuki. Wow, what a great idea that was. It's just, I love Sting. If I'm not at the event, I will be watching it out of respect for him.
Yeah.
The guy's been around so fucking long, it's unreal.
Yeah.
And just what he's still doing, jumping off of things, and he's the icon. I love Sting. I truly love him, but I think his AEW run has been awful, and I'm curious to know what you think. But,
I agree. No, I agree. I kind of figured they would win the titles to make his last match, I guess, mean more. Just the problem is AEW in general. Tony Khan, this guy's a complete clown. Yeah. He's got an ego a mile long that he thinks he's the best booker of all time. He's playing with his action figures, like you said.
Yeah.
And there's just no reason for me to tune into them because I can't get invested in anything they're doing. Like, what is Samoa Joe doing right now? He won the title, but that came out of nowhere too. He dropped the Ring of Honor title and then all of a sudden started feuding with MJF. Like, what is Samoa Joe even doing these days? Like, what's his big angle right now?
He's had a 3-way match with Swerve and Hangman. Your favorite, Hangman.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, great. That's intriguing television. Yeah, great. We could put on great matches. Awesome. No story between any of those. Yeah, this is I don't get it. I don't get AEW's booking. I never have since this company started. They have everything else. They have production, they have the roster, but they just can't put it together. I just have nothing. I've really nothing for AEW. Excuse me, but
it's amazing that someone could take such a loaded roster and make it as little interesting as it is.
Yep.
Actually, like, it's quite a feat.
Yes. And then create shows that nobody's watching. Attendance is down. Yep. AEW to me, it's like I honestly don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to them in the future. It would not surprise me if one day TNT it doesn't want them anymore, though. I could see that, or TBS.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know. I mean, once, good for Sting though. He's going out on I guess at least he got a title. So there's that. But I got really nothing else to say about him, to be honest. So. All right, so that brings us kind of to the last segment of the show, and that usually goes with a Hurls Hot Corner here. I think I got to go since you're the Lex Luger, Mark.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Lex Luger.
First question: do you think Lex Luger's going in the Hall of Fame? I think we kind of talked about this earlier, but. I mean, I think he's going in this year.
You do? You think it's this year?
I think he goes in this year, yeah.
Why?
They've been running more specials on him. I think they're prepping us for his Hall of Fame.
Maybe they're seeing what the feedback was.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's going to go in.
I hope, man, because I think the guy deserves it. I mean, he does. His body of work, he certainly deserves it. Obviously, if it wasn't for what happened with Miss Elizabeth, he'd already be a long time ago. So
yeah. So I got to go to. I actually do have a good Hurls Hot Corner question. Name one wrestler who you feel like never reached their full potential, but you could have saw them as a world champion.
So is this somebody that's never won the world title?
Yeah, probably someone who's never gotten a world title. Like, who do you think is that guy?
Obviously, the first person that comes to mind is Scott Hall, but I think that's the easy answer.
That's an easy one, yeah. That's a really easy. You
could
use it,
but shit, that's tough because nowadays everyone's been in different promotions. So, like, if they are not a champion in WWE, maybe they won one TNA or AEW.
I'm saying like any organization that has a TV deal. I think you can't really use. It's got to be a guy that just never won the title. And it can be classic, could be a guy 20 years ago, 30 years ago, could be current, whoever.
Man. That's a hard. I mean, if you have I'm sure you have an answer since you asked the question.
Yeah, there's a few that I can think of.
Yeah, let me hear what you have.
So this is so I'm going to start with the 80s here. There's a few guys that I think that probably should have been bigger than they were. Gino Hernandez, that saw his dark side of the ring. That guy could cut a promo. Obviously Magnum TA, that was another guy who probably would have been world champion, never got to, obviously because of the car crash. But guys like in probably like the 90s, early 2000s that I thought had a lot of potential, but it obviously needed some fine tuning. I thought Sean O'Hare was going to be a lot bigger than he was.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I really thought that the Devil, what was that gimmick he had with Devil's Advocate gimmick he was doing? I thought that could have went places.
That's a good one because it's a guy with a good look.
Yeah. I thought he could have been a lot bigger than he was. He just really never got better in the ring, and his mic skills I didn't think were that bad. I think he could have got better.
Is he alive?
No, he passed away, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah. Another guy who did win a world title. I guess he kind of is disqualified from this, but he could have maybe been bigger, especially in WCW. I think Mike Awesome. I think if they didn't screw him up so bad with that 70s guy, I think he could have been someone that maybe could have reached the heights.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so those are a couple guys that I think maybe could have done it.
I got one that pops into my head because he had the look. Sean Stasiak.
Oh wow.
That just never panned out into anything more than a mid-carder, I guess. But
yeah,
he had a great look, great build. Guy, he to me, and his father was right?
I believe, was his dad?
I think
Stan Stasiak. Yeah.
So he had the lineage, he had all that going for him. So that's just one that popped into my head when you started mentioning. You brought up Sean O'Hare.
Yes,
Sean popped into my head, but yeah, that's a really interesting question because there's so many. Back then, there were a lot of guys who had the look.
Yeah, that could have been bigger than they were.
Yeah, I mean Shelton Benjamin probably. Right?
Yeah, he just could never get that mic skills down. Yeah. Just never could. But he beat Triple H twice. He had some really awesome. Love the world's greatest tag team. That was such a good tag team.
Yeah. What was the name of his partner again?
Charlie Haas.
Yeah, I mean he's another guy who could have taken another step and never did. Charlie Haas.
Both of those guys, if they would have been booking correctly.
So funny that you look back at all these guys like Sean O'Hare, even Sean O'Hare's partner, Mark Jindrak. You look back at these guys and the build they had and the look they had. If they were around now, would just look like monsters compared to the guys that are leading the way now. Like they were I guess everybody was on steroids, but they just were massive men. And to me, that's what I picture when I think of a heavyweight.
Yeah, because it's what we grew up with. That's what we're known
Yeah.
for so long. I mean, even in our
Imagine,
early 20s.
like, just think of Orange Cassidy. To me, he is a joke. The wrestler, like, almost an insult to the history of wrestling to have that guy out there winning matches
Yeah.
and being nothing more than a joke. Like Norman Smiley would kick his ass.
Yes. Yes.
Screaming
Yes.
Norman would kick his ass.
Yep. Yep. That's probably a good comparison too with the way that their characters are.
Orange Cassidy, except Norman was booked properly as a joke.
He was correct. He was over too because of it, like super over.
La Parka, the chairman.
Yep. Yep. Him too.
He could win matches, but he was fucking hilarious.
Frickin' Disco Inferno.
Like, Disco gets too much flack, man. I'm sorry. He gets way too much flack because he was over.
He was
over with the role he had. That's what Orange Cassidy should be. He should be a joke. And I got news. The joke ain't funny anymore.
No. Yeah, it's getting stale. It's getting really stale.
That was a good question. I like that one. I'm sure I'm gonna think of some guys after we.
Yeah, there's a lot more obviously that you could have gone down the line. I mean, British Bulldog never won the world title. He's a guy that could have won.
That's definitely won.
Yep.
Definitely. Robert Roode should have won in WWE.
Yeah, I could see that. I just think his TNA run was so good.
Great LA Knight's gonna have the same fate.
Probably, sadly. Hopefully not, but yeah. But at least you got Bobby Roode's TNA run, which was one of the best title runs that TNA's ever had. So good. So good. Well, Goldberg, this was good to go over the news, and I have a feeling we're going to get some more, information on that Scott D'Amore news, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how TNA and we'll see how WrestleMania unfolds too. There's a lot of intrigue there. So
I agree.
And you know what doesn't have any intrigue? AEW. Yeah. There's really nothing to care about besides the fact that you got some good champions, but man, they got no good dance partners. Not at all.
As long as Tony Khan's booking that show, I'm off.
Yeah,
I have no interest.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
And
until they get a booker change.
The thing to me is, I wanted them to be good, and I think when they debuted, I'm sure you wanted the same. Like, we wanted that alternative in another show to watch. And it's just so
especially
bad.
being on TNT. It had all the right it had
everything.
Ingredients.
I tried so hard to give them a chance, and I'm not purposely bashing them. They just suck.
Right. I agree. So. Yeah. All right, Goldberg. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Any final comments before we sign off?
No. Looking forward to the new TNA still.
Yep, same here. And they're going back to the Palms. Let's go. I like that. So, all right, for Hurls, for Goldberg, thanks for tuning into the Heelcast. Go listen to Goldberg's Gripe. I'm going to do the same, and we shall see you with some type of content next week. See ya.